we wanted to send you on the secret route to get here. Just to see if you could do it. And you did.
That's right.
Oh, Lord.
I'm going to go ahead. The agenda for this evening's meeting is right there. You can view it.
Yeah, Carlin, Mim and I made one small change, so don't freak out when it happens.
I promise not to freak out. There will be no freaking out.
Mainly, I plan to resign from the board prior to the member recognition section. That's
Yeah,
down, Denny.
we know you're joking.
You know, I never joke.
I'd come after you if you did that, you know.
Okay, do we want to give it like another 2 minutes?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
That's why you and I are a great team.
That's right.
In the meantime, if people would like to introduce themselves and their organizations in the chat, that would be great.
Okay, I don't have to say that.
What do you think, Danny? It's 4:05.
I think we ought to get rolling. So I'll begin by welcoming all of you to the October 2021 member meeting of the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council. Your masters of ceremony today will be myself, Denny Mcmanus, one of the co-chairs, and Mim Seidel, also co-chair. And sort of think of us as if you are SNL fans of as the Colin Jost and Michael Che of the board. In any event, it's really impressive to see so many of you on the call, so many familiar names as well as some new ones. And as you can tell, if you've looked at the agenda, we have a pretty full one. So let me just do a little bit of housekeeping. As Carlin mentioned, it is very helpful if you put your name and or organizations in the chat, so we have a sense of who's with us today. We are recording the meeting. I think all of you would have gotten that notice to agree to, or you might not be here. But keep that in mind. Don't say anything that you don't want used against you in some future political campaign. We also find it necessary at times to mute folks. I've been muted several times. If there's too much background noise, that will happen. And then if necessary, please rename yourself so we know who you are up there on the big screen. And with that, I want to turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Mim, for some special welcomes.
Yeah, thanks, Denny. And Denny, did you know that your video wasn't on?
Oh, I did that, but that's probably best for everybody. Let me work
But
on
we
that.
would like to see you if you can turn that on. But welcome everybody. And as Denny said, it is really nice to see such a nice big group here. And I'd also like to give a special welcome. We have 2 new board members. A couple board members ended up needing to resign, and we were able to fill their seats. And I just wanted to welcome Karen Gardner, who is in the agriculture stakeholder seat. I just saw that she waved, and welcome Karen. And Masood Sales, who I believe is on this call also, is in the stakeholder seat, which is a representative from a county apartheid, a community that suffers from food apartheid located in the county. And he's representing the neighborhood of McKees Court, where he is. So welcome to both of you. It's good to have you on the board. Okay. And going to the next thing, seamlessly, we are doing 2 member recognitions, and it is my pleasure to start us off with a member recognition of Denny Mcmanus. I've known Denny for a very long time because I've been involved with the food bank for a very long time. And it's been really fun these past 2 years to be co-chair with Denny. Now I'm acting as if he's leaving the board, but he is not. We are not allowing him to, but he is retiring from the food bank. And that's why we asked Lisa Scales, who is the executive director of the food bank, to join us by Zoom and say a few words. So Lisa, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Well, thanks so much, ma'am. And I don't know what special powers you have, but Denny knows this. I have said to him many times, you're not able to leave the food bank until I leave the food bank. And that is not what's happening here. So I don't know, you've got him staying with the Food Policy Council. So congratulations on that, because I know how much value Denny adds to the discussions, as well as humor. So this is not a roast of Denny. Denny, we could certainly plan that another time, although I will open it up for comments. So, some of your colleagues on the council may, want to roast you as well. But I have to say, Denny first came to the food bank. I'm going back now 17 years, 2004. Joyce brought him to the food bank after his illustrious career at the Institute of Politics at the University of Pittsburgh. And he was hired as a part-time, we get this title right, Education and Advocacy Coordinator. So of course, Denny kept getting promoted over the years through the organization. But I have to say, Denny's been such a strong and effective advocate on behalf of the people we serve, people who struggle with food insecurity. And when I think about his time with the food bank, he's really made an impact here in Southwestern Pennsylvania, but also across the state. He has chaired advocacy committees for Hunger-Free Pennsylvania, and also at the national level. The Feeding America has a committee that's focused on advocacy, and Denny was one of the first members of that committee, and was really instrumental in setting the public policy direction of Feeding America for a number of years. So we are so fortunate to have had him on our staff, and I will sorely miss you, Denny. And I can't believe you're leaving without me. I thought we were going to, kind of ride off into the sunset together. I will be waiting for that photo in an email message that you send me of the 2 of us riding off into the sunset. But I will say, really, Denny has deepened the relationships we've had with elected officials, local, state, federal level, and really, he's just he's just done so much to advocate so effectively and strongly for people we serve. And I will say, will be no surprise to anyone, but I did have to dig out your resume, Denny, and find out that not only do you have a bachelor's degree, now none of us will be surprised that it includes political science, but it's also a degree in rhetoric and public address, and no surprise here, a minor in theater arts. So, you know, that kind of your college education really set you in good stead for all that you've accomplished in your career. And so with that, I will open it up if folks have other comments. Don't be bashful.
Well, I'll say if I knew you felt that way, I wouldn't be leaving. But no, I'm just kidding.
Denny, how many times did I tell you that?
No, thank you. That was very, wow. Appreciate that.
Well, if anybody has any other comments, I think putting it in the chat is a good thing, and then we can keep those and present it to Denny years and years from now when he leaves the Food Policy Council. And Lisa, thanks so much for joining in.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
thank you.
Words.
Thank you. And I know you have a packed schedule, so.
All right, well, thank you. And we do have another member recognition, and Dawn's going to make the introduction.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so we wanted to recognize Chef Claudie Pierre, who's been on our board and our steering committee for a bit here, but wanted to recognize he and his team's work on the World Food Day, which was celebrated just some weeks ago. My track of time is not so good, October 16th. And I wanted to share just a little bit of a story, which I think is really emblematic of, you know, what it is that we're doing here in terms of building a food system where we not only collaborate on things and work together, but we really see each other as people and appreciate one another. At the Food Day festivities on the 16th, Claudie presented several, people that organizations and institutions that they collaborate with at the EAT initiative with awards of thank you. And so I just wanted to make sure that we also provided a thank you to the EAT initiative and to Chef Claudie and Naomi and their team for, you know, the role that they play in our food system, and wanted to make sure that we lift that up, and also underscoring that Food Day really is the opportunity to link our work on food at the local level to the global level, really underscoring that food isn't just something that, you know, ends up on our plates. It's impacted by policies and decisions that are made on our behalf. And so our participation in that system is really critical. So it's a really exciting way to celebrate and come together the last few years with the World Food Day, and look forward to Food Days of the future. That's it.
Great, thanks, Dawn. And with that, we're going to roll right into Dawn's Executive Director report.
Great, so I will be brief. I had a couple of things I wanted to share. For those of you who aren't aware, we've been in the process of becoming a 501c3 supporting organization, nonprofit. We were previously essentially a fiscally sponsored project of the Community Foundation for the Alleghenies. And so we're becoming our own nonprofit. We've seeded our board, as Mim mentioned. We had some new folks join our board recently. So that's a bit of an internal transition for the Food Policy Council. We are also about to embark on a strategic planning process. So we'll be really looking at how, now that we've completed our food action plan together with many of you, how do we really catalyze our network to advocate for those those policies and those changes laid out in that plan, which we wanted to do a deep dive in looking at our organizational structure and how to engage more robustly with our members and all of that good stuff through our strategic planning process. We've also been working on our communications. We launched a communications committee. Oh goodness, I don't have the date here, but recently, last week maybe, with the leadership of Kiam Ansari and Jen England, and everyone is welcome to join that communications committee. The idea is, how do we communicate better as a council, but also how can we facilitate sort of mutually beneficial communications. We're all doing so many things and communicating with so many audiences, and how might we join together to do that in a more streamlined way and engaging way. Particularly also thinking about, as we have advocacy asks and things like that, how do we effectively mobilize our network of members to be successful there. I wanted to share, we have 2 current AmeriCorps Vista positions working with us, and we will be bringing on another 2 Vistas as our first Vistas finish their time in the new year. So keep your eyes peeled for those descriptions and help us share the word. We'd love to get some great folks on board starting in early 2022. So keep, all of these announcements, I should underscore, are shared through our bi-weekly newsletter called The Scoop. And maybe someone can drop the link of where you can subscribe if you don't already. We also try to share that out on social media. So there's always a lot of great information in there in terms of, we try to share actually job postings of any of our organizations or food systems jobs. So it's a good place to go for job listings, for action items, for important reports and information around the food system that we think is important for folks to know. I also wanted to lift up, so I have been representing the Food Policy Council in coordination with the Allegheny County Health Department and others who serve on the Food Safety Advisory Committee. And we've been working to advise the food safety program for a while. And we have a big project coming up, which is that we've been looking at, which is to revise the food code in our county. And so this is the code that regulates all of our food spaces. So whether you're a food truck, whether you're a restaurant, these are the codes that you need to meet essentially in order to get your, the words are leaving me, but in order to be able to run your business. So it's a really important revision that the county will be putting forward for public comment. There will be a public comment period open for 60 days. This is really important for us to help reach business owners to understand the changes that are coming and get feedback from the community before these are approved. And so we have a somewhat small window there, but I just wanted to flag that. And again, keep your eyes peeled. We'll share information on how to review that and provide your feedback in the next couple of weeks. I do think that, I'm not sure exactly when the comment period is going to be. I think it's maybe November, December, or December, January. So keep your eyes peeled, and as soon as we have those dates, we will share them with you. And lastly, just wanted to share that we were really excited to co-sponsor with Casa San Jose and many of our partners and many others, the recent Pittsburgh mayoral debate, where we were able to hear from Representative Ed Gainey and Tony Moreno on a whole variety of issues. And we were sure to be able to include a question around food justice and the role of the city. So really excited to have that kind of conversation with the candidates for mayor, and do want to remind everyone to vote and share the word. That's part of our building food democracy, is engaging in our electoral system. And that is a wrap for my report.
Don, did you see Carlos asked a question in the chat, asked if there's a timeline for the changes after the meeting? I wasn't sure that I understood the question, but
Is it about the food code maybe?
Is that Carlos? Do you want us?
Yeah, it was just about the food code meeting. Like after the public comment period, is there a expected timeline for when the changes will be instituted and
Oh yeah. I think so. We have Bob Glidden from the health department on the line. So Bob, please let me know if I'm misspeaking, but if I remember correctly, I mean, it depends because it's a process. They have to be approved and passed to go in, be enacted. But I think that it's a longer timeline, something like January 23rd is the anticipated timeline, but again, subject to change. Bob, did you have something you want to add on that point?
Sure. Can you guys hear me? I'm not sure which microphone I'm using.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can.
Sorry, took my headset off. The Board of Health is the first entity that's going to review this, and that happens next Wednesday. So until after that occurs, I mean, it could get delayed. It could get tabled. And so there is a 60-day comment period, but the beginning of that 60 days is going to depend on its passing through the Board of Health. So if it doesn't happen in this meeting, it won't happen until January again, because I don't believe they have a December.
Do you know if Board of Health meetings are they public? I'm assuming they are.
Yeah,
So
the schedule for the meetings is on the website, and they are currently still doing them virtually, as far as I know.
Great. I'll find and drop the link there if folks would like to join that conversation.
But even when they're not virtual, even when they're in person, they are public meetings. They just didn't always have them in a room big enough to have very many people in the public there.
Well, great. And then Dawn, you're up next to introduce the deep dives.
Fantastic. So let's shift gears into our deep dives. At our member meetings, we really try to, carve out a chunk of the agenda to do a deep dive, to look more closely at a particular project or issue. And so we're really excited tonight to have Afton Giles and Shelley Danko-Day and Rebecca Bykowski with us tonight to share some work that they've been collaborating on around questions of composting and food waste. So I will turn it over to Afton.
Hi, my name is Afton Giles. I'm the Senior Sustainability Coordinator with the City of Pittsburgh, and I'm really happy to meet with you guys today. I haven't tuned into the Food Policy Council as much as I used to. I know Shelley is sort of our person there in her role, but as you guys probably have heard already, we've been working on food waste these last couple of years. In a number of ways. And food waste is a really big part of our zero waste plan. And we're really happy to have the opportunity to have been able to work with Nrdc as our partner, and now with USDA through the grant that we just received in order to further those processes and further those goals. We were awarded a $90,000 grant from the USDA to work on food scraps and in particular building compost and building soils over the course of the next 2 years. And it is a 2-year project running from October to October. So it's October 2021 was the first day through October 2022, and then October 2022 into 2023 as is the ending of this particular grant. The main parts or the main pillars that we're really focusing on is regional health, in particular improving our soil quality through composting and food scrap processing. We're really interested in equity in terms of how we can help to make sure that there are opportunities to not only have access to good, safe soils in our region, but how to rebuild those safe soils in our region, because usually it's the most vulnerable populations that are impacted by having poor soil quality, with having really heavy clay soils that are hard to work, as well as soils that are contaminated. Particularly with lead. We want to make sure that we can try to rebuild our soils as much as possible, and using food scraps as a commodity through compost in order to do that. And of course, the economy is also something that's really important to us as well. So how do we help to spur the green job market in the city of Pittsburgh with regards to composting and processing food scraps, so that we're not, as the city, coming in and taking away from the entrepreneurs and the commercial haulers and things that are already working in this food space. But how can we as a city try to spur more growth in that division, not take away from what's already happening? In order to do this, we have a couple of things that are occurring at the same time, all on a very small scale. $90,000 is a good start, but it's not nearly enough money to really do this to the scale that we would really like to do it. But hopefully, as we're able to do some research and implementation, it'll hopefully drive maybe some more funding our way so that we can do some bigger things in the future. For year one, it's going to be focused mostly on research and information gathering because obviously, this is a pretty new space for us in the city, and there's been some things that have been done here or there, but nothing that's really taken a really good look at all the food waste and food scraps at a systematic level as to what's going on in terms of after it leaves your kitchen, whether it's your commercial kitchen, your restaurant kitchen, or your at-home kitchen or your grocery store, what's happening to our food. So we're working with the Nrdc in particular on that front in order to help us to do research with one of the University of Pittsburgh's business classes, who is helping us to do an in-depth deep dive at food systems with regards to what happens after the food has been consumed. So, where are they taking it to next? Is it going to a 412 food rescue to be reused? Is it going to a food pantry if it's something that can be reused? Or is it being scrapped, trashed? What's happening next? So they're doing that research on, what's happening within our region. We are defining Pittsburgh, of course, as the city of Pittsburgh, but then we're also trying to figure out what the right scale is because we know that we don't exist in a vacuum, especially with food systems. We are looking about 10 miles from the city center, so we can get a lot of our border places, but we are willing to expand that, and whether or not that's expanded or not will help to be informed by the research that Pitt is doing with us. And then on the second side of that research, we're working with PRC in order to help us do a systematic search and sort of information gather on what's happening in particular with composting, because we're really interested in hitting that food scrap composting processing aspect of it. There are a number of people that we know of on the commercial scale that are doing composting. One in particular that's very large. Most of the other ones are smaller entrepreneurs that are in that space that are only maybe a few years old that have been either processing or transmitting food scraps to be turned into compost. And we also know that there's a lot of community organizations out there that are offering composting as well at community gardens, churches that are hosting community gardens that are doing and accepting food scraps and food waste, but we really don't have a very good view as to exactly where they are, who they are, and what they're doing with it. And, and the quality of the product that they're producing after they're doing it. So PRC is going to help us on that front to really help us to shore up that information. And after all this information is gathered, what the anticipation is and what the hope is that we'll be able to have a pretty comprehensive report and guide that's available to all of the city of Pittsburgh with regards to what they can do with their food waste or with their food scraps after they've consumed it. Sort of, what their options are, who they can call to come take it away, who they can give it to, and what they can do with it and how they can do it. Whether it's, composting in your backyard, or if it's taking it to a farmer's market for composting, for drop off, or hiring somebody to come to your house to pick it up for composting, if you don't have the capability to process it sort of on your own in your own backyard. The second year is a little bit more exciting than the first year research, of course. But the second year is going to be more of an implementation phase for us to use the research that we've gathered during the first year. One of the other things that we're going to be working on during the first year is trying to figure out in particular at our farmers markets. We're going to be doing some waste audits, and we're also going to be doing some waste audits internally at two of our community centers, our Carrick Community Center and the Phillips Recreation Center, and at Homewood Senior Center. Every year, the city of Pittsburgh serves about 20,000 meals through our senior centers and our community center programs to both youth and seniors, and that's a lot of food. 20,000 meals is a lot of food. And we're really proud of that because it definitely helps to close the food insecurity gap for a lot of people and a lot of families. We want to try to be zero waste as an internal city by 2050. So one of the things that we know that we're going to have to figure out is what to do with the waste that's coming from those programs. Right now, it was a little bit derailed because of COVID, because the structure of the meal system changed. Where it used to be that residents would come to the senior center or they would come to the community center, they would have to consume the meal there. Things changed a little bit, and now people, of course, were coming, they were picking up those meals and they were taking them home. As we're beginning to reopen some of our recreation centers and our community centers and reinstituting those programs, we'll be processing a lot of that waste on site and being able to capture that waste again on site. So what do we do with it next? And how much are we producing? And and what's the packaging like for those products? So we'll be taking a look at that and researching that in the hopes of in year 2 being able to do some composting on site at Carrick, because Carrick has a really awesome garden that's already there, that's community supported, and that has staff that's already staffed towards creating that garden and maintaining it. And they're really excited about being able to have the opportunity to be able to compost on site and to be able to use that as an education opportunity for the students that attend that particular site. During the day, we get a lot of homeschool students that come to Carrick in order to meet their homeschool requirements for physical education. And we also get the after school populations that come to hang out after school, to do homework. And of course, they're served a meal and they're served a snack. And at Homewood, we do a really robust senior program that meets on pretty much a daily basis. I think it's open every day except for Sunday, where seniors are able to come and get a really good nutritional lunch. So we'll be able to take the food waste from those and educate about food waste and about food scraps and be able to compost them on site. At Carrick, it'll be a more traditional composting where you have your 3-unit system. A lot of manual labor that goes into turning that compost, turning it, and the things that can go in it, educating about that, and then turning it into soil that they can use at the garden, and possibly even be able to use at some of our other city gardens and things as well. And at Homewood, it's a little bit different. We don't have the same type of infrastructure set up. It's more of a traditional place where you would come. We don't have I think there's some small gardening space, but not quite as extensive as what we have at Carrick. And you also don't have the same manpower. And it's more of it will be an in-vessel composter that claims to be able to do anaerobic composting. So they'll be able to take those food scraps and actually take a little bit more variety, because we'll be able to take proteins as well as fruits and vegetables, and be able to take them out to an in-vessel mechanical composter that we're going to be trialing for a year, and then keeping tabs on exactly what it takes in order to feed it, to track it, to make it run, and the quality of the compost that comes out of that system at the end, which they claim to be almost as good as sort of the natural process, but we're not really sure. So that's what we're researching, and how much staff time it's going to take in order to do that. And if we were to scale this up, would we be able to what size would we need in order to really get all of our recapture all of the waste from all of our municipal facilities in order to compost all of that waste. On the other hand, we do have some external things that will be available for other people to participate with us, and which we're really excited about. One of the things, like I said, we really want to do is try to encourage composting among regular City of Pittsburgh residents, whether that be in their backyard, or if that's working with one of the existing composters in the area in order to pick up your food scraps if you're unable to do that, or if you want to collect your food scraps and maybe drop it off at a community garden. We want to try to do a pretty good education campaign around composting, and we also have the opportunity to work with hopefully about 75 to 100 residents to do a pilot project. And in that pilot project, we'll be trading off a really cool, of course, steel kitchen top food scrap waste bin, and with the exchange of hopefully getting some really good, robust information from the people that are agreeing to participate in that pilot via, of course, surveys, basically. So like I said, from that year 1 research, we want to produce a really good directory of what you can do with your food scraps, and we're hoping that the residents that are going to participate in that pilot will help us to figure out what's working, what's not working, where they're taking their food scraps, are they doing it in their backyard, and what's working and what's not working, and try to figure out where the city can possibly infuse itself to help to make some of those processes work a little bit smoother. We'll also have some opportunity to work with hopefully 4 community-based compost, community-based people that are already doing compost, whether they be a church or a nonprofit organization. We're hoping to get 4 so that we can find somebody sort of in the north, south, east, and west that would be willing to accept community compost from the community from our pilot project, obviously, from the people that are participating in our pilot project. If they come there with their bin, will they be willing to accept it, and helping them to also do research and to figure out, what they could do to improve their processes. A lot of places have said that really the one thing that they need to make their composting efforts more effective for their community is really having a full-time person or a paid staff person there. Some of them needed some education materials and some research done on their soil quality because maybe their compost isn't turning out the way that they expected it to. So we do have some opportunity to do. I think I have planned at least 2 to 3 internships where we plan to work with students, not students, but we plan to offer some paid internships so that we can have people to add capacity to those 4 gardens, wherever they might be, or for community-based composters, wherever they might be, in order to do help them to optimize their current activities so that they can hopefully be able to take compost in the future and be able to hopefully maybe even charge so that they can accept that compost in the future. But it's about building their capacity and building their capabilities so that they can get to that point where they can become part of a market-based solution. And finally, we'll have a little bit of space really for some entrepreneurs that are already in that composting space in order to pick up compost from us. We're working on transitioning our farmers markets to being sort of zero waste farmers markets, where we'll be working during that year 1 to try to figure out, what products in particular, like the food storage products, our food vendors will need in order to transition from sort of the traditional maybe styrofoam that they might be using now to something that can be composted. So we'll probably need some people to pick up compost from our farmers markets in order to take it to a place where it can be composted. So we'll have an opportunity to hopefully work with some of the more small commercial or commercial. It's probably too small of a pilot really for a large commercial place, but at least some of the smaller entrepreneurs that are in this space in order to help us transport and to actually process that compost. So that's pretty much what we're doing. And I know it's a lot. And these 2 years are going to probably fly by. But yeah, a lot of you guys are in the space that we're looking to work with. So I'm sure that you'll probably be contacted by either the University of Pittsburgh, who was helping us with our food study, or by PRC. So we hope that, if you get that call, that you'll hope us to participate as much as possible and provide feedback in a timely fashion so that we can hopefully get all this put together. I'm sure there's some questions. I think I see some coming through the chat. And I don't know if Shelley, if you wanted to add something, or Rebecca, if you guys wanted to add something from the NRDC stuff that we're doing.
I think we're going to go over that in a minute. So
okay,
you could go ahead and answer the questions about the program you just outlined.
Sure. Let's see. Is there a timeline for the change? Oh, wait, no. Looks like it's mostly comments more so than questions.
There was a comment from Neisha Johnson. She said, "This is a fantastic program. I'd love to see hiring be focused on a full-time city residents, as student populations are often transient. Also, what drove the decision to have 2 separate systems in Homewood and Carrick?"
Oh,
and
sorry.
then one more question: how can we get more information about the internships mentioned?
Oh, sure. So the reason that we're doing internships is because it is such a, it's not a very large budget. And yes, we do understand that it's going to be a transient population, but the actual implementation phase is pretty much going to be over the summer. So it's just a 1 year. It's not a full-time position. And I don't think that for right now, we don't have the funding to support an actual full-time position. And because it is sort of a small sample project, which is why, that's why we're using interns in order to try to get this going, just so that we can try to provide some sort of economics a paid internship, which actually the Department of Planning doesn't usually actually do paid internships. We usually do experience-based internships. So this will be a really nice opportunity for us to actually give people a fair wage for the work that they're doing with us for the summer in order to get this accomplished. And one of the things that we would hope to get out of this is, if this is a system that does work for us, we'll be able to probably be able to do a better valuation of exactly how much it would cost us as a division, as a department, in order to possibly sponsor doing an actual paid position in the future. So if we do find that, what people actually need and what's working at a community scale to get composting, to get a community scale composting going, where people are going and they're dropping off their food scraps and it's able to be processed, and they're able to pay some into the system in order to get that done to whoever that is that's processing that compost. If all they need is a city person to come and to maybe help them with education and to help them, maybe do some checkups on sort of the health of the POW and things like that, in order to help support that, then maybe it could possibly be transitioned into a full-time position somewhere in city parks or somewhere in special events who does our farmers markets or somewhere in the Department of Planning with sustainability and resilience. So, that's
mentioned that you don't necessarily have to be a student to do
no, you don't.
with city planning. So
no, you don't have to be a student. And actually for these internships, you don't necessarily have to be a student either. So it could be something for somebody who's maybe a recent grad, or somebody who just, is willing to do the work on a very part-time basis, on a part-time basis. It's just, I don't think that it'll be enough to cover somebody's full-time, employment needs, but it will certainly be something that's enough for maybe a recent grad or somebody that's coming back into this to be able to have the opportunity to use it, to profit from doing this, who is interested and enthusiastic about it. And in terms of how the internships will be publicized, of course, they'll be publicized through the city of Pittsburgh. We'll make sure that we reach out to Food Policy Council. I hear that you guys have a really good, network that you guys work with as well. It'll definitely be publicly accessible. The one thing though, that I know that we always get a lot of criticism on is that it's going to be a city of Pittsburgh. You have to be a city of Pittsburgh resident, unfortunately. But that's not my role. That's a city of Pittsburgh role. So.
Thanks so much, Afton, for sharing that. Super exciting, and thanks for leading the way on that. And I definitely hear you, as we pilot out a variety of things in our food system, there are opportunities to build good jobs. And so like gathering that information and seeing what it takes just creates more good food jobs. So looking forward to seeing how this all unfolds, and we'll be more than happy to share information. I want to transition to Shelley and Rebecca to share a little bit more about food waste and composting initiatives.
Thanks, Dawn. 1 second here. Let me get my presentation ready, and I'll also turn my camera on. Just want to make sure.
I will flag there was another question in the chat, Afton, about data. Maybe you could take a look at that and reply in the chat to that question.
Sure, will do.
Do you want to go ahead and answer that question now, Afton?
I just opened the chat to read it, sorry.
Okay.
What kind of waste data are you looking to collect this first year? That's Dylan from Ecotone Renewables.
So waste data, it's a lot of different things. We're still coming up with sort of all the questions that we're going to need to answer, but we're really looking to figure out, if you are a person that's in the composting sort of business now, how much do you need to charge in order to make yourself sort of stable as an organization? Where is your food coming from? And for the most part, are you getting contracts from like large operations? Are you getting contracts from grocery stores, individual people? What are your routes like? Some of the other stuff that the University of Pittsburgh is looking at are some of the bigger systematic things in terms of, how much food is your organization producing? Where are you sending it to? How often do they pick up? What's the tonnage that you're getting rid of? Are there any maybe most common things that you find that you're getting rid of and that's ending up in the food waste system? So things like that. We're still kind of coming up with a lot of the research questions.
Great, thanks for clarifying that, Afton.
Great list.
Great. You ready to roll, Rebecca?
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm trying, I have a, let me just bear with me one moment. Okay, so going to share this screen. You're probably going to see all your faces for 1 second because I have another view. Oh, wait, I'm sharing the wrong screen. It's like it's my first time on Zoom. Okay. Okay. Let me see. What? Oh gosh, it is like it's my first time on Zoom. I'm just going to have to go without my presenter view. It's too complicated. Okay. Oops. Okay. And we're back. Can everybody see my screen?
I can see your screen,
Yes.
but it's just your Google Drive.
Oh my gosh, honestly, you guys. It's like it's my first time on Zoom. Let me stop my share. I was using Canva. This is my problem. I was trying to share with my presenter view on Canva and also share the full presentation with you because but whatever, that's not going to work. So, okay, now here we go. Here we are. All right, so now we're good. Okay. So thanks everyone. Thanks everybody at the Food Policy Council for having us today to share more about the NRDC Food Matters Regional Initiative that the city of Pittsburgh is part of. My name is Rebecca Bykowski. I'm a senior program manager at Sustainable Pittsburgh. And we are in partnership with the city through this project. So what we're going to do today is really give you an overview about the Food Matters Initiative, what it means, what other cities are involved in our region, and just more of an overview of the different strategies that we will be implementing and that we have already been working to implement and are in process of. So I apologize if you hear my dog running through, my goodness. Okay. So NRDC Food Matters Regional Initiative. Pittsburgh is part of the Mid-Atlantic cohort. We are paired with similar cities like Baltimore, Jersey City, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. So there are 3 different cohorts. We have a Mid-Atlantic, the Great Lakes, and the Southeast cohort. So you can see there in that graphic which cities are involved in which cohort. So it's really, as you see, it covers a lot of the, Midwest to Eastern US. And so it's really pulling us together to work together to implement these strategies within our own cities, but doing them within these groups that expand widely geographically to really maximize impacts and really take a really much larger team approach to it. And so that we're really able to learn a lot from each other through this process. So the intended outcome, as you see here, is to influence large-scale change around food waste across sectors at the regional level and across multiple regions. So as I said, we have the 3 different cohorts. It's a 2 to 3 year timeline. It's right now, we are currently in year 2. Some of our strategies have, been put on hold due to the pandemic, which, as we all know, everything's been put on hold due to the pandemic, but we've been able to effectively work toward some of the goals that are outlined within the strategies too, and with some of the strategy implementation. So within participation within this initiative, there are 5 core requirements, and then deployment of 3 to 5 NRDC tested tools and strategies. There are actually a total of 7 strategies, and we selected in Pittsburgh to do and implement all 7. Reason being that, one, we have a really great network of people that are within food waste prevention. A lot of the work is already being done. There are just a lot of opportunity to really build on what we've done already and what's currently happening, as well as some baseline assessments that also are involved in this, which I will talk about next. So one of the baseline assessments is this NRDC Food Matters calculator. So one of the, sorry, I had to make an action here, I guess because I was made as a co-host. So yes, so the Food Matters calculator summary. So this is one of the baseline assessments that the NRDC put together for us. So this model is based on proxy metrics that come from a range of national resources as well as NRDC's own research. So there weren't actual audits done to produce these numbers, but it's based on a lot of heavily backed information from a research perspective. So it's estimated there are about 90,000 tons of food waste that's generated in Pittsburgh each year, with restaurants being the highest food waste producing sector with over 30,000 tons of food waste produced. Then next following up is residential with nearly 28,000 tons that are produced just within our homes. So those are really the top two, and really, you know, obviously like between the two of them, that makes up what 65% of the waste that is estimated to or calculated to be produced in Pittsburgh annually. So also another baseline assessment that was done is something to identify food rescue opportunities. So as we all know, donation of surplus food is essential and vital when it comes to helping people who are facing food insecurity. So if you look at this graph, the right side shows tons per year, with the blue shaded portion, the light blue shaded portion, representing the maximum potential scenario for rescue if all businesses from each sector were participating and donating, or all the potential for rescue was being rescued. So that's like our best case scenario. So then if you look at the ambitious potential scenario, which is represented by more, I can't figure out if it's navy or black color on the bar there, but that represents what is an ambitious potential scenario, but is also realistic and attainable based on some assumptions that were made and using existing donation patterns. And so one important thing to note in this, we know that the restaurants in our previous slide we just looked at were the one of the highest producers of food waste, and they represent the largest portion of overall wasted food. But much of that food is unusable because it's occurring post-consumer. So it's really doesn't really have much potential for rescue there. I also wanted to point out that through this partnership, we've also been, there are tools that we've been using and that are available publicly online. So if there are things that anyone here in this group might be interested to learn more about, there are toolkits. You can learn more about the baseline calculator guide and how that, those numbers, how we came at those numbers, or sorry, NRDC, not we, but you know, there's some tips on communications there. You can look at ways about increasing public awareness about food waste prevention. There are a lot of different guides and tools available publicly at nrdc.org/food matters. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Shelley, who is going to tell us more about the strategies that we're implementing, where we are in those, and kind of what's to come. And then also opportunities for you all to engage if there's interest from the group.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shelley Danko Day. I am the food planner for the city of Pittsburgh. Like Rebecca said, when we applied for this, when it came down to it, we had to select which of the 6 strategies we wanted to do. And we picked all of them because we do have such a strong group of support and network of people doing this kind of work in the city, but also because there was something happening around some of these already. Energy bubbling up around some of these, and some of them just sounded like fun. So we decided to pick them all. And then they added one. And so of course we had to do that. I don't know, we're overachievers, maybe, I'm not really sure. So the strategy 1 is to enact a city ordinance or official acts by a mayor. So what we did last year was we did a social media campaign, and it was around Food Waste Reduction Month. So we called December Food Matters Month. And we're going to do the same thing this year. Strategy 2 was to do a food waste audit, and at one of the city facilities. We had intentions of doing it at the rec center and the senior center that Afton was mentioning, but that never happened because of COVID. Nobody was going there, nobody was creating anyway, so we had nothing to audit. So that's kind of on hold until we get back to normal, whatever that ends up being. Number 3 was to implement organic waste collection at those same properties. And so again, that couldn't happen just yet. But we did work with worm return. We made the offer to all of the small and large, all the composters that we had contact with in the past, and offered them space at our farmers market for free in exchange for taking food waste from the residents, and they could sell whatever they want. Worm Return is the company that, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Laura Corday and Worm Return. She's amazing. She loves worms. She's also working on a soldier fly larva business. I think probably the only one in the state, maybe, at least in the city. But anyway, so she's been doing that, and we have some really good, I think we have the numbers in a little bit that talk about that, but she's been doing that at 2 of our city-run farmers markets for 2020 and now 2021, and she has a really good way of tracking the numbers, so we have all that data from that. Next slide, please, Rebecca. So strategy 4 was the food waste prevention messaging, which we integrated into our Food Matters Month, and we will again this year. And we're working on ways to, once things are a little more normal, integrating that into public spaces and messaging in public spaces, maybe on restaurant menus, in grocery stores, but nobody wants to take that on just yet. So we got a little bit more time. Also, the other one is to engage businesses in a food waste challenge, like the Sustainable Pittsburgh did work with, was that 412 Food Rescue you worked with on a chef challenge? So similar to that, and this is the one, the strategy number 5 is the one that hooked Rebecca into this project for us. So I'm very excited about this one, and we will get to it when things get back to normal again. Strategy 6 is to work with the health inspectors to train them on advising restaurants about donation and food waste prevention and other alternative methods like composting, and also to create materials that they could pass out. We thought this was going to be something that was also postponed because of the COVID pandemic, but lo and behold, the county was very excited to talk about anything but COVID. So anything that wasn't COVID, they were like, yes, please, let's talk about that. So that is in the process right now. And actually the Allegheny County Health Department is working with Nrdc on health inspector training. They thought it was going to be 2-hour-long trainings, and our health inspectors, the way they train is in smaller bits. So they're changing their training to be in like 15-minute segments, which is going to work for us, and it might work for other cities as well. And then the final one is the one that falls in line with Afton's project, and we're working with Dr. Morell at the University of Pittsburgh on doing a food rescue assessment and finding the gaps in our infrastructure and doing surveys and stuff. So some of you may hear from them, but that's strategy number 7 is to, do an assessment. So that brings us to the Food Matters Month for 2020. Like I mentioned, was a social media campaign, and there's some of the metrics from there and some of the organizations that were involved this year. We have expanded our working group, and we're going to be doing a lot more interaction with that. And we are going to, I'll put the link in the chat to, if you want to participate in this working group, and if you want to participate in Food Matters Month and participate in the social media campaign that we're going to do, you can sign up, and we will put you on the list and get you all the information that you need. We're also going to do a proclamation from the mayor around Food Matters Month for this year as well. Next slide. Sorry, I can't do that myself, Rebecca. So we got in 2020, Mayor Peduto signed a food waste reduction proclamation. And this year we're doing a social media campaign. We focus each week on a different theme. So there's, reduce or reuse, I guess was the first one. So it's how to use your leftovers from Thanksgiving, because the first week of December follows Thanksgiving. And then how to reduce your waste and recycle food waste and what you can do. Usually the last month is resolve not to waste, or the last week is resolve not to waste food. So the question is, how can we get the Pittsburgh community excited and engaged in Food Matters Month? That's what we need to figure out. So strategy number 3 is, as I mentioned, Worm Return was picking up food waste from residents at 2 city-run farmers markets. These figures are from a couple weeks ago, and she's been out every Monday and every Friday, or her team has been out there collecting our food waste, and she's getting some really good feedback from the residents, and that's, I think, important too, like educating people on what the reason we compost and how important it is to remove food waste and organic waste from the landfill. She really has a good pitch. If you've never heard Laura, I recommend talking with her. She's very passionate about this topic. So she has increased her client base as well. Since she does this, she goes to people's homes and picks up buckets and swaps it out. So she's increased her client base and thus increasing residential compost overall for the city. So we consider that a pretty big success. Next slide. As I mentioned, the messaging, right now it's pretty much just social media, but we're hoping to expand that to websites and billboards. They have all the Save the Food ads. Nrdc owns those, so they're able to, we are able to use them at no cost. It would just be the cost of getting the space and renting the space. So those are some other messaging options we're looking at. Don't remember what number 5 was, but number 6 is working with the health department. We're working with Jesse Sherrard. He used to be at the food bank, I believe. Now he's at the Allegheny County Health Department, and he's working, like I said, with the health inspector or with NRDC on the handout and also any sort of video that we might do with the training. So they're working on the final design and should be available to view soon. So our working group right now, we met once. We're going to release the strategy for Food Matters Month, and everybody will just do their own social media stuff, but we'll have it all laid out for everybody. And then we'll start meeting in 2022 to discuss different strategies that are being pursued and get feedback from the working group members and share all of the challenges and opportunities associated with this program. Is there another slide? Okay, that's it. So if you want to be part of this program, I'm going to put the link in the chat to the Google form where you can sign up and you can join us. Thanks.
Great. Hey, thank you, Shelley and Rebecca and Afton. This is just really valuable information and wonderful to see. So thank you so much for sharing. Our next group of presenters have to do with the Greater Pittsburgh Food Action Plan. And we're going to do some implementation highlights. I'd like to kind of change the title a little bit to After Sam Speaks, that the other people, maybe we call it a lightning round. As time is moving, we've given people 5 minutes after Sam. If it could be a little bit quicker, that might help us out here. But Sam, let me turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Mim. So yeah, I wanted to share with you all this evening that it is well the 1 year anniversary of the Greater Pittsburgh Food Action Plan. So I wanted to be able to celebrate that with you all tonight. And yeah, for folks who aren't familiar, I'll put the link. Yeah, I mean, the Food Action Plan was a project we spent a little over 2 years with, a really kind of collaborative process to develop this really robust plan with 150 strategies for how to strengthen the regional food system here in Allegheny County. So we have a project that we wanted to launch to commemorate this, to mark this 1 year anniversary. And we made a little explainer video. I was wondering, actually, I meant to ask this before, but Kiam, could you make me a co-host here so I could share my screen? Sorry for not asking about that before. But yeah, I wanted to share a little video to introduce our GIFAP 1 year in review kind of anniversary project. All right.
You're good to go.
Yeah, thank you. Share screen.
Greetings from the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council. I'm Dawn. We have Sam and Kiam also with us here this afternoon to help us mark the first anniversary of the release of the Greater Pittsburgh Food Action Plan.
So many people helped contribute to the making of this plan, whether by attending community engagement sessions, stakeholder roundtables, filling out a survey, or providing comments on the draft of the plan. Given how collaborative the process of developing this plan was, we wanted to have a similar collaborative process to mark the 1 year anniversary.
We know that last year has been incredibly trying and challenging. However, we also know that in the face of overlapping crisis, we saw leaders step up and respond to keep communities safe, healthy, and fed. These are the stories that we want to hear from you and lift up.
Over the last year, the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council has kicked off the implementation of our region's first food action plan by gathering dozens of council members and leaders, partners and communities in working groups, action teams, and coalitions. Together, we've advocated for free public transportation for SNAP recipients in the face of COVID-19 pandemic. We've authored and advocated for the adoption of the Good Food Purchasing Program at Pittsburgh Public Schools. We've launched a Pittsburgh Food Equity Ambassadors Program together with the City of Pittsburgh and other partners. And we've advocated for the creation of a food justice fund at the City of Pittsburgh. This year, the Food Policy Council has also seated its inaugural board of directors as we've become a 501c3 nonprofit organization. With our new board now in place, we're redoubling our efforts to grow and mobilize our Food Action Network so that it's capable of bringing about the systems and policy changes that we so desperately need.
We want to hear from you. What is one highlight or accomplishment you are proud of in your work over the past year? How have you contributed to a just, equitable, and sustainable food system? How did you and your community respond to the crises caused by the COVID-19 pandemic? Did you volunteer at a garden or with a food distribution, call an elected official, start or expand a program? Let us know.
You can share your story with us on social media using the hashtag #PGHFoodAction. Just tag Pittsburgh Food Policy in your post. You can also record a video, send a picture, or write a paragraph that summarizes your year. You can share your stories in any of these formats directly by tagging us on social media or by using the link above or below in the description. We will be collecting these stories and sharing them during our December member meeting. So make sure you guys get us your stories before December 12th.
We also invite organizations, businesses, farms, and programs, large and small, to tell your story. Have you worked to bring about food justice, healthy food, environmental sustainability, equitable development, and fairness to our communities and our region's food system? We can't wait to hear from you.
All right, so yeah, as we said in that video, we are really excited to hear about the stories from all of your work. Hold on, now this thing is playing. I need to shut it off. That's how that works. Yeah, really excited to hear all of your stories. We know that so many of you throughout your work have been advancing some of the strategies that are outlined in the food action plan. So looking forward to gathering those stories and then at our next member meeting in December to be able to share some of those out. And to kind of kick us off and get it started, want to invite a few folks to give examples of what some of these stories might look and sound like. So let's see, Chef Carlos, if you are still on the line here, if you want to jump in and share kind of one of your highlights from this past year.
Hey everyone, I'm Chef Carlos. So one of the major highlights that I wanted to bring forward is, well, I guess two, is extension of the Food Bucks program through the Food Trust. Really looking to see how we can extend that program, not only on as far as the community food buck side, but through the expanding fresh produce, getting corner stores to start serving more, make food more fresh food more accessible for them. Another great expansion is that I do run a catering company. We have been able to transition into all of our local produce being sourced from the greater Pittsburgh area. It's been difficult because of the variety that we have, but it has something that has made a big change as far as our clients and how they interact with food. So those are two of the major changes that we have been able to overcome and surpass.
That's great. Thanks for sharing, Carlos. Those are both really exciting highlights and updates. And let's see, Karen Gardner, if you want to share as well. I'm going to pull up the picture you had sent as well. I'm going to pull that up and share my screen if you want to tell us about it.
Sure. A highlight of my work this year, please excuse this dorky picture. It makes me very happy. Someone in our coalition made this. But a highlight of my work has been participating in the Driving Pennsylvania Forward Coalition, which is fighting for driver's licenses for all in Pennsylvania, regardless of immigration status. It's a topic that's deeply embedded and important within the food system, as our food system, local, regional, and national, depends on a backbone of folks from a variety of immigration statuses, but we do not provide basic human rights, such as the right to transportation, to all of those incredible community members within our food system. So this was from a House Democratic Policy Committee where several of our coalition members spoke. We've also now had a committee meeting with the Transportation Committee. We've are a small and mighty community of grassroots folks who are beating the odds of this current partisan atmosphere and of the makeup of the Pennsylvania legislature. And we're receiving a lot of flack from national anti-immigrant groups, but we're continuing on and really making amazing strides. So that's also kind of my update from later. I'll just put that here to make it a real lightning round. And I will put in the chat the action page that we have as our part of our coalition, if anyone is inspired to get involved.
Great, thank you, Karen. And let's see, Marcus Hauser, if you want to also share a highlight as well.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marcus Hauser. I currently own and operate a farm called Veggie House Farms. It's a hydroponic farm. And I don't know if you guys have ever, you may be familiar with the type of farm. It's a freight farm, if you've seen that 60 Minutes special. But I'm right here in Westmoreland County. One of the main missions that I had planned on doing with the farm was definitely assisting in food insecurity. I've written a few proposals looking to address, District 9 communities. They're probably the closest in proximity, but, I grow and I just grow. So, I'm open to other initiatives with partnerships and, anything like that. I just, I have a lot to grow and give. And, my mission was to do food insecurity. That's still my mission. I have some districts, identified that I don't have existing partnerships with, but I'm looking to build those partnerships over time and establish some new food pathways. I am familiar with the report, and the report you've been working on over the 2 years. I've read that. That was very thorough. I appreciate that. But yeah, just creating new food pathways, trying to get into communities and do farmers markets. I already applied for the SNAP benefits. So hopefully in the next, month or two, I'll have that machine operable and up and running. It's going to be a winter, so it's going to be more like a winter farming for me. But I'm all year round. Currently, I have about 22 different varieties of things that I'm either growing, harvesting, or planting, or just seed stock. And I have various business ambitions now. I work with grocery stores, I work with individuals, I work with restaurants. I'm still learning. I've only been in operation since April. So, I'm still trying to perfect everything there is to perfect about being a full-time farmer and a full-time employee and a full-time dad. So there's a lot of hills that I'm still trying to climb up every day, and I'm working on it. But ultimately, I have massive amounts of produce, and it breaks my heart because I just probably threw away about 40 pounds of just lettuce over the past, 2 weeks because I couldn't find anyone with rabbits and I didn't have anyone else to give it to. So, I'm just trying to create new partnerships so that I could, harvest these things and know where I can just take it, even if it's a donation, even if it's, whatever the situation is, I'm kind of, prepared to provide it, whether it be packaging, microgreens, full heads of lettuce. Right now I'm pushing for the holidays, so I'm growing a lot of collard greens and kale. I'm currently on Market Wagon. I have a web page, but I don't have a web page, so I wish I had more to offer in that sector, but I'm working on it. Hopefully I'll have something up in a month at most. But I mean, like I said, I've been a part of the food community. I know Dawn. I've worked with PPS to do the garden beds, so I'm very familiar with those. I'm a big proponent of advancing healthy eating and food initiatives in public schools. I'm currently working on Imagine PPS projects to update and innovate kitchens in the school district, being that's kind of my job function. So I'm very embedded into what you guys are doing. And like I said, I just need more partnerships to get to the locations where I would most be needed.
Yeah, thanks very much, Marcus. Glad you're able to join us this evening and see one offer for a partnership in the chat there. Hopefully you and Shelley can coordinate and connect about joining Food Access Network as one place to start making some of those partnerships. But yeah, thanks for sharing more generally about your work. And I think, that's part of, again, the stories we're hoping to hear about. People who are starting new farms and the challenges and rewards of that. And and being able to put all these stories together about farmers and food systems workers that Karen was talking about, and corner store owners and entrepreneurs, like catering company owners like Carlos was talking about, and really paint a whole picture of all the work that's happening in our food system here in the Pittsburgh area. So really excited to be gathering these stories from you all over the next couple of weeks. That video shared will be up on. We're posting it on social media and sending it out through our newsletter or scoop we mentioned earlier. But yeah, does anyone have any questions about that? Cool. All right. Well, yeah, we hope to hear from you on that soon. And with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Mim to take us through our lightning round of kind of updates and the highlights from implementation here.
Right. Thanks, Sam. And I see Olivia first on my list.
So Olivia actually asked me to fill in. She was traveling to Harrisburg today. Yeah, so I can give a short update on the Pittsburgh Food Equity Ambassadors Program. We have our 8th out of 9 sessions coming up this Friday. The program has been going really, really well so far. We've got a group, about 10 or so ambassadors that have been having a lot of really great conversations. We're kind of honing in now on a final list of recommendations. A lot of which focus around kind of food accessibility, and transportation and kind of market access. Like I said, we'll be finalizing that list of recommendations and hoping to present it to the new mayoral administration in early January or late January. So that's the first cohort of that program, which will be we'll be kind of wrapping up soon, and then we'll hopefully be having, or we will be having, a second cohort in kind of spring of 2022. So I'm sure we'll be sharing more information about applications for that when we get there.
Great, thank you. That is such an exciting program. So it's always good to hear about it, even in a lightning round. And then Karen, we heard from you, right? And so we're on to Dan Dalton with land access update.
Hello, everyone. Wanted to just update you a little bit on our process and some recent happenings in the land access subcommittee of the Urban Ag Working Group. We had been working throughout the summer on identifying criteria, first and second order criteria for narrowing down and assessing available urban sites for food production, specifically, or starting with annual vegetable production, but keeping in mind, small livestock and more perennialized and tree culture production for the future. We've had some really interesting conversations with folks through, among the committee and some of our associates. But most recently, and then with Carnegie Mellon offered, or we were put in touch with them, exploring the idea of potentially doing one of their sort of capstone master's program projects with some of their students. However, I think we've decided, and at the same time, it turns out that we were multiple tracks running down the same avenue. The city and Shelley and some of the folks in the office there have found an opportunity through the EPA to actually operationalize this a little bit sooner. So I think we're working on a process of sharing those criteria, doing some of that GIS mapping, and then sort of hashing through our process on a more accelerated timeline. Actually, what we've been hoping to do all along. It just happened that things fell into the right place at the right time, which is fortuitous. So at this point, we're sort of working on sharing across those details via our meetings and other communications. Figuring that process out initially and then honing it. We do expect that, once you put it into operation, that there's going to be some tweaks that need to be made. But we're really excited by the prospect of having the GIS layers give us an initial narrowing, so that rather than assessing hundreds or thousands of sites at a time, we can be identifying the most prime and the most fit sites for further assessment, and then hopeful operationalization for urban food production. So like I said, it feels like we're on the cusp of really putting that into action, and pretty excited about it. So excited to be able to share that out here.
Well, thanks, Dan. And it's not so often we hear that things happen a little faster than we thought they were going to. So that's always good to hear. And that takes us to Sarah. Did you want to update us on the Good Food Purchasing Program?
Sure. I think I've talked about sort of the meat and potatoes of the Good Food Purchasing policy and program at a previous meeting, but I guess just a quick update that we've been working with a coalition of people to be able to get language, policy language in front of school board members, and then work to get that language to a vote. And the school board is voting on the policy tomorrow. So fingers still crossed that it goes well, but we've been in conversation with board members leading up to this. So we'll hopefully have an update for everyone probably just early Thursday, either way.
Right. I'm real excited to hear about that vote too. Malik Hamilton from Pittsburgh Public Schools actually spoke to my food access class this morning, and we were talking about that. So fingers crossed, as you said. And then Sam, are you going to wrap us up there?
Yeah, I could give one more update here on kind of our work on, I guess, advocating for food systems investments within the city of Pittsburgh. We kind of continue to, we had our proposal for a food justice fund that we're continuing to revise and refine, and continuing to do some kind of individual outreach to city council members to see what kind of interest there is in that kind of in a food justice fund, and general kind of more leadership from the city on food systems initiatives. So those conversations have been really positive, generally getting a good response from council members. So figuring out, kind of our, weighing different kind of strategies and options for how to continue to move that work forward. But still trying to keep that work moving.
Great. Thanks a lot, Sam. And over to you, Denny.
Okay, and now we have exactly 1 minute remaining on our scheduled time. So I would encourage people to stick around just a little later if you can, but we do have some member share outs that we wanted to feature. And I'm just going to go through the list here and call your name and please talk fast. Jennifer Flanagan. Are you still with us?
I am still. Hold on. Yes, I am still with us. I had to get myself off of mute. Hey, everyone. I just wanted to give a quick update. Jen Flanagan from Community Kitchen Pittsburgh. I just wanted everyone to know that our training programs are all paid now. So people can go through our culinary training program and be paid while they train. This is a licensed program. They do, if they complete everything, they do get 15 transferable credits to CCAC. We also have approved Department of Labor apprenticeship programs as well. Now we have 3 of them, one in baking. Big thanks to Chatham actually for partnering with us on that. And then one is a professional cook and the other one is an inventory control. So I'm sure everyone is aware that the wages have really increased. That is one benefit of everything that we've gone through over the last few years. And we're seeing much higher wages and benefits and much better working conditions for our folks that we're placing out. We've got some really strong employer partners that are really committed to keeping that as the norm. So I just wanted to put the word out there if you know folks that want to come through our program. For those of you who are not familiar, we do have a lot of supports in place for folks experiencing barriers to employment. We do a lot of work. We have case managers on staff. We kind of help people through the barriers that are preventing them from getting and maintaining employment. So that is my update. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I'd like to call on Dylan from Ecotone. And encourage everyone to read what he put in the chat, but do you want to add anything to what you put there?
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it. So yeah, have a look at the chat. I'll keep it brief, but we actually just recently ran a successful Indiegogo campaign to help fund a second anaerobic digestion system build in Pittsburgh. We're currently based in Swissvale, where our first system has been running for the past 2 years now, first in East Liberty, now in Swissvale, and very excited about this second system build. And you can see the link I added right there. I can put it one more time. But please, if you have any friends that are interested in fertilizer or plants or sustainability, please consider sharing this with them, as we have just 2 days left of the campaign. So very much trying to push it this last 2 days that we have left. And very much appreciate all of your time this afternoon. It's been a great meeting listening in.
Thanks. And before we get totally off the subject of food waste, Jake Christoffel, are you with us? You have another, oh, he's not with us. All right. Okay, he wanted to talk about food waste and pigs. Brooke, with the city planning department, are you still here?
Hi, I'm still here. I'm just working with Afton basically, and supporting her and all of her projects. So yeah,
okay,
that's it.
That's great. Great meeting you. Thanks for joining us. And then Marcus, did you have more to add about your food security insecurity initiative?
No, no, I'm just in that period of operations where, like I said, I'm just looking for partnerships to do distribution. I have some packaging, I have some labeling. Right now I'm doing some things, but anything that someone wants to that would be wanting to do would only, takes me 30 days to grow anything in that farm. And there's no herbicides, no pesticides. So it's, a great marketing tool for a lot of different, people out there. And, I want to be able to, spread it. And if it grows so fast, I gotta have outlets. There's never a limitation on kind of what I'm producing. It's equivalent to 3.5 acres. So I just want to make sure that it's getting to the right neighborhoods and the right people so that we can fix some of these social issues that are out of control.
Great, thank you for that. Kimberly, Germany, are you still here? And then last, but certainly not least, but also I think from farthest away, or maybe not, we probably have somebody here from Philadelphia or whatever, but Shannon Myers, are you still in the room?
I believe she put in the chat earlier that she had to jump off.
Oh, okay. And then the last one I have here is that Bob Glidden, you may or may not want to say something else.
No, I mean, I think Dawn was just mentioning that when she started talking, so I think we're good.
Okay. Well, in that case, Mim, do you have anything you want to add before we?
I do not, other than to say this was certainly a meeting packed full of important information. Really thank everybody for that.
That's for sure. And I actually appreciate, I've been watching the participants expecting the number to drop precipitously at 5:30, but it has not. And so I want to thank you, special thanks to all of you for sticking with us, and have a lovely evening.
Bye.